Welcome back. We continue my conversation with T.J. Rodgers, founder of Cypress Semiconductor, CEO, Rodgers Capital. I want to ask you about the other policies coming out of this administration, T.J. Tax cuts, rollback in regulation. What has been the impact on your business and on the economy overall, in your view? Okay, well, start with tax cuts. And I won't talk about deficit till after I talk about tax cuts per se. When I was a kid, President Kennedy ran against Nixon, candidate Kennedy ran against Nixon, said the Eisenhower administration, which had a 92% marginal tax rate, was stodgy and harming the economy. And Kennedy cut taxes, and we had a boom. And Kennedy was an economic hero. Ronald Reagan came in and did the same thing. He cut taxes. The top bracket went to 28%, which is a record. He got down to 3 brackets, and there was a boom that transcended Reagan's presidency in the presidents following all the way through Clinton. We now have a tax cut, and for the 3rd time in my life, the economy's booming. Now, the difference is here that Reagan's first tax cut paid a lot for itself because the increased volume of the economy caused more transactions to be taxed at a lower rate. I'm very concerned about deficits, but right now I think getting the economy revved up is number one, and we're going to have to take a hard look at deficits pretty quickly. Yeah, well, $1 trillion deficits from here on out is something we're going to have to contend with, but a lot of people feel that it's not due to the tax cuts, but it's due to too much spending, TJ. It is. It's absolutely too much spending. And the Democrats and Republicans are fighting. And the compromise was we'll give you everything you want and we'll give them everything they want. And they both want to take care of their constituents with extra spending. So we're going to have some sort of measure that puts a lid on spending. And in my lifetime, I've never seen it. Yeah. Do you worry about new regulations cutting into margins for the technology sector? Because obviously these companies, and I'm talking specifically about social media right now, but these companies have become bigger than anybody expected and much more influential. And now you're seeing a censorship going on of certain conversations. A couple of weeks ago, you could Google GOP in California, and the search list that came out to describe the GOP in California, one of the words was Nazism. There are other things that are shadow banning that Devin Nunes and Kevin McCarthy, majority leader, are talking about. They want to get the CEOs of these companies in to testify. That's going to happen in September. Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook expected to be there. What's your take in terms of the potential for more regulation, heavier hand of government on tech cutting into margins? Okay, first of all, you've used the example of the social media, but in general, the Trump administration has been a windfall to the administrative nightmare of the Obama administration. Regulations are falling. It's getting easier to do business. It's getting cheaper to do business. That's right. In every sector, and that's part of our boom. Now, the social media is kind of a different thing. We're in new ground, and we're trying to ask ourselves, what should we do? And there's some things that have happened, Russian influence on the election, shadow Russian players inciting different constituencies in different ways. To me, there's one principle. Whenever you get in a place like this, you look back at the Constitution. And the First Amendment says, Congress shall make no law abridging the right of free speech. End of discussion. That you got to keep. That's what America is. The rest of it, we're kind of groping around trying to figure out what to do. I think that's a great point, but are social media companies right now cutting down free speech? You could say that, but, you're seeing an argument or a pushback on the part of lawmakers that maybe there are situations where free speech is being impacted, not by them, though. Well, this is where I think it's important to have a conservative court is not really, if you define conservative to be to follow the Constitution as written, conservative court is a good thing here. So in the future, it may be somebody wants to communicate and he gets censored, he or she gets censored by Facebook, whatever. At that point in time, somebody's going to sue Facebook for censorship, and then we're going to have the court decide how the First Amendment rules here. Right now, they're censoring is kind of a joke if you look at it. It's basically whatever Zuckerberg thinks in the morning, then he zaps this, he zaps that, and you're looking at the lack of a rule of law in an area that's brand new, that you expect that. It's not like they're doing anything wrong. But we can't have companies deciding who can say what. And eventually that's got to get worked out.
That's exactly right. I agree with that.